Biologists know exactly why a 2-meter scorpion is theoretically possible and exactly how it would hunt. This is a full survival breakdown of a creature that doesn't exist yet. You're walking through a dry, rocky landscape. The air is still. The ground is warm under your boots. Nothing moves. Then you notice the shadow. It stretches across the ground ahead of you. Too wide to be a rock. Too long to be any animal you've ever seen. And before your brain even finishes processing what you're looking at, you hear it. The slow, deliberate scraping of 8 legs on stone. That's when you realize you are not alone. If you're new here, this channel is where we break down scenarios that science hasn't ruled out and survival strategies most people never think about. Hit subscribe now because this one gets intense. Before we get into how you survive, you need to understand what you're dealing with. And to do that, we need to talk about why a 2-meter scorpion isn't as crazy as it sounds. Scorpions are one of the oldest animal groups on Earth. They've been here for over 430 million years. They survived mass extinctions. They outlasted the dinosaurs. And in prehistoric times, arthropods, the group that includes scorpions, insects, and crustaceans, regularly reached sizes that would seem absurd by today's standards. The reason those ancient giants existed comes down to 2 things: atmospheric oxygen levels and the absence of competing predators. During certain periods of Earth's history, oxygen concentration in the atmosphere was significantly higher than today's 21%. More oxygen means bigger respiratory capacity. And for arthropods, one which breathe through passive diffusion rather than lungs, that's the key constraint on size. Now, what if that constraint were removed? What if, through a shift in atmospheric conditions, or through a hypothetical evolutionary pressure nobody predicted, a scorpion line began growing beyond every boundary we consider normal? What if natural selection pushed a species toward 2 meters of hardened exoskeleton, claws the length of your arm, and a stinger the size of a kitchen knife? That's the scenario, and it's one that changes everything you think you know about dealing with dangerous animals. Let's break down what you'd actually be facing. At 2 meters, a scorpion of this scale would weigh somewhere between 150 and 250 kilograms, depending on the density of its exoskeleton. For reference, that's in the range of a large lion. But unlike a lion, this creature wouldn't have the vulnerabilities of a mammal. No exposed throat, no soft underbelly in the conventional sense, no eyes you can reach without getting inside its strike range. The exoskeleton would be the first thing you'd need to understand. Scorpion cuticle, the material that makes up their outer shell, is one of the toughest biological materials in existence. It's layered, flexible at the joints, and almost completely impervious to blunt force. At this scale, that shell would be thick enough to absorb impacts that would shatter bone. A rock, a branch, even a machete strike to the wrong spot would do essentially nothing. The claws, called pedipalps, are the primary capture mechanism. At 2 meters body length, you're looking at pedipalps that could span nearly a meter each. Their function isn't just to grip. They sense vibration. They detect chemical signals in the air. They are, in effect, both hands and a sensory system simultaneously. The moment those claws are oriented toward you, the creature already knows your weight, your direction, and roughly your size. And then there's the tail. The metasoma, the curved tail segment, in modern scorpions is fast, deceptively fast. Some species can complete a sting strike in under a second. At 2 meters, the mechanical advantage of a longer tail would increase striking speed through raw momentum. The stinger itself, the telson, would be positioned at the end of a 5-segment tail that could arc over the body and strike targets almost directly in front of the animal. In other words, staying in front of it doesn't help you. The strike radius is nearly 360 degrees. And now, the venom. This is where it gets complicated and where most people make their first conceptual mistake when imagining this scenario. They assume bigger scorpion equals more lethal venom. That's not necessarily true, and understanding the difference could be the most important survival insight in this entire video. In modern scorpions, the most dangerous species tend to be the smaller ones. That's because small scorpions have weaker claws and rely on venom as their primary weapon. Larger scorpions, with stronger mechanical grip, use venom as a secondary tool to subdue prey that's already restrained. At 2 meters, with claws capable of exerting hundreds of kilograms of force, this creature might not even need to sting you to kill you. The venom would still be there. It would still be potent. But the primary threat, the thing that ends the encounter first, would be the mechanical force of those claws. That said, even a moderate scorpion venom at this scale, delivered through a stinger the size of a spike, would enter your bloodstream at a volume your body simply couldn't manage. The neurotoxic components that modern scorpion venom contains would, at this dose and injection depth, produce systemic effects within minutes. Cardiovascular collapse, paralysis, respiratory failure. If it stings you and you're alone, the conversation about survival becomes very short. Understanding how this creature would hunt is what actually gives you a chance. Scorpions are ambush predators. They don't chase, they wait, they sense, and they strike when the target enters range. Modern scorpions can detect vibrations through sensory organs in their legs called slit sensilla. Essentially, they feel footsteps through the ground before they see or smell anything. At 2 meters, the sensitivity of those sensory arrays would likely be extraordinary. Every step you take sends a pressure wave through the ground. Every vibration, your heartbeat if you're close enough, the shift of your weight, all of it becomes signal. This means the worst thing you can do is walk normally, and it means the creature would likely be oriented toward you before you even know it's there. Scorpions are also nocturnal by strong preference. Their exoskeletons fluoresce under ultraviolet light, a biological feature that still puzzles researchers. But their primary activity window is darkness. At night, their sensory advantage over a human is nearly absolute. You're navigating by vision in conditions where your vision is impaired. The scorpion is navigating by vibration, chemical trace, and possibly electromagnetic sensitivity in conditions where it's fully active. This is a creature built for the night, and if you're caught outside after dark in territory where one exists, the rules change completely. Before we get to what actually gives you a chance, let's clear the board on what doesn't work, because most instinctive responses would get you killed. Running is the first instinct. It's also one of the worst options. Scorpions don't pursue prey at high speed over long distances. That part is true, but they react to vibration. The moment you break into a run, you are broadcasting your exact position, direction, and speed through the ground in real time. You're essentially sending a signal that says, mobile prey, moving this way, at this pace. If the creature is within its strike zone when you run, you've just triggered the capture response. Climbing is another intuitive escape, also deeply problematic. Scorpions are exceptional climbers. Modern species can scale glass surfaces. At this size, with hooked claws on 8 legs, vertical surfaces that a human can scale are not barriers. They might slow the creature slightly due to weight, but that's not a gap you can reliably exploit. Attacking it directly is the most dangerous option of all. The exoskeleton means that most improvised weapons accomplish nothing except getting you inside claw range. And inside claw range is exactly where you don't want to be. Rainwater is also not the refuge people imagine. Scorpions can survive submersion for extended periods. Some species have been observed surviving underwater for up to 48 hours by entering a metabolic slowdown. A creature this large, with respiratory adaptations to match, would not be stopped by a stream or a shallow body of water. So what actually gives you a chance? The answer is exploiting the few real limitations of the body plan. The first limitation is sensory. Scorpions sense vibration, not static presence. If you are completely still, you produce almost no signal. The ground pressure of your motionless body is noise. The moment you move, you become visible. This sounds simple, but it's the foundation of everything else. Stillness is your most powerful tool. The second limitation is the exoskeleton itself. As armor, it's nearly perfect. As a weight-bearing structure, it has consequences. At 2 meters and 150 to 250 kilograms, the creature is carrying enormous mass on a jointed external skeleton. The joints, the intersegmental membranes between exoskeleton plates, are the only soft tissue exposed on the exterior. These areas, particularly at the leg joints and where the tail segments connect, are the only anatomical vulnerabilities. If you are forced into a direct confrontation and have access to something with penetrating force, not blunt impact, but a sharp, driven point, those joint membranes are the only places where damage becomes possible. But reaching them requires getting close. Which brings us to the third and most important rule: don't get close. The most effective survival strategy against this creature is not confrontation, it's disengagement through terrain. The creature's size, while giving it reach and power, also constrains its movement in specific environments. Dense, low-clearance terrain, thick brush, narrow rock formations, underground spaces, limits the mechanical advantage of both the tail and the claws. The tail needs arc space to strike. The claws need lateral clearance to grip. In a tight crack between boulders that a human can fit through and the creature cannot follow, you have a refuge. The key survival insight is this: you are not trying to win. You are trying to become not worth pursuing. If you're caught in this scenario after dark, which is when this creature is most active, the protocol shifts. Your first priority is elevation with solid structure. Should not open height. A tree is not safe. Trees transmit vibration. A large flat rock surface elevated above the ground by vertical stone, something the creature would have to physically climb to reach, gives you time. Not unlimited time, but enough time to make decisions instead of just reacting. You need to eliminate vibration signature. That means slow movements, distributed weight, and avoiding contact with continuous ground surfaces where vibration travels. Sitting still on an isolated elevated rock platform creates a discontinuous vibration environment. You stop being a signal. You need light, specifically ultraviolet light. The fluorescence of scorpion exoskeleton under UV is one of the few guaranteed detection advantages you have. A UV flashlight, which most survival-oriented people don't carry, and probably should, auto turns a camouflaged ambush predator into a glowing target in complete darkness. In this scenario, at this scale, the visual signature of a 2-meter fluorescent organism at night would be unmissable with UV illumination, giving you detection range of potentially 20 to 30 meters. No UV light? Then your detection relies entirely on sound, the specific drag and tap pattern of 8 large legs on stone, and on the vibration you feel through any surface in contact with the ground. This is why your elevated, isolated position matters. It converts ground vibration signals into airborne sound signals, which your hearing can process directionally. There's one more survival variable that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most decisive one: psychological response. Humans have an evolved fear response to spiders and scorpions that is, are, by evolutionary standards, one of the most hardwired we have. It precedes rational thought. When you encounter something that triggers that response at this scale, the physiological reaction, elevated heart rate, adrenaline surge, tunnel vision, happens in milliseconds, before you've made a single conscious decision. That adrenaline response, while useful for burst physical performance, works against you in this specific scenario. Increased heart rate raises the vibration of your pulse against any surface you are in contact with. Rapid breathing changes your chemical trace in the air. Sudden movement, the flinch, the recoil, is exactly the high vibration signal the creature uses to locate prey. The people who survive high-stakes wildlife encounters are, in study after study, not the strongest or the fastest. They are the ones who manage to stay controlled under a stress load that shuts down most people's higher cognition. In this scenario, that psychological edge, the ability to be still, to breathe slowly, to process rather than react, is a literal survival mechanism. You can train for this. Exposure to high-stress scenarios in controlled environments, even simulated ones, builds the neural pathways that allow deliberate action under threat. The survival advantage isn't in your gear, it's in your nervous system. Let's zoom out for a moment, because this creature doesn't exist in isolation. If a 2-meter scorpion were to exist today, it wouldn't exist as a single anomaly. It would be part of an ecosystem that had adapted around it. Prey availability would shape its range. A creature this size requires significant caloric intake to sustain its mass. It would concentrate in areas with dense medium to large prey, which in today's world means areas with dense human activity or large ungulate populations, forests, grasslands, agricultural zones, the edges of cities. Other predators would adapt around it. Large apex predators with pack behavior, wolves, lions in the right geography, would likely learn avoidance patterns. But humans who don't have instinctive avoidance behavior, because this threat never existed in our evolutionary history, would be navigating without that hardwired recognition. The creature would also profoundly alter behavior at night. In regions where it was established, nighttime outdoor activity would become genuinely dangerous in a way that essentially no modern terrestrial predator creates. The raccoon that knocks over your trash is not in the same category as an ambush predator that detects vibration at range and has a strike speed that outpaces human reaction time. This is a hypothetical. The 2-meter scorpion doesn't exist, but the biological principles are real, the physics are real, and the survival logic is real. Every rule in this breakdown applies to real high-pressure survival encounters. Stay controlled, eliminate your signal, use terrain, understand the predator's sensory model, and don't try to win a fight you don't have to have. If you made it to the end of this breakdown, there's a good chance this is exactly the kind of content you're looking for. Why don't you leave a comment below? What's the next creature you want a full survival breakdown on? Real, prehistoric, or hypothetical? We'll build a scenario. If you found this useful, the like button is a small thing that makes a significant difference in getting this kind of content in front of people who'd want to see it. And if you're not subscribed yet, this is the kind of video we make here. There's a lot more where this came from. Stay sharp, stay prepared. We'll see you in the next one.